When you take a stop and look and see crazy things in this black history, across the ocean and across the seas, now is the time to be free.
Before we continue to go through our Blak Mestory, I'd just like to quickly recap what we discussed in part 1. So you can see we have our umbrella tree again, and as you can see, there are 11 different sections or chapters that we are covering over the course of this program. And highlighted in red, you can see the 4 sections that we covered in part 1. From the first section, pre-300,000 BC, where we discussed the volatile and hazardous state of conditions on the planet at that time and the Homo erectus creatures that were around at that time. Followed by the section on first African inhabitants, where we looked at the dates relating to the earliest records of human presence around the different parts of Africa. We also suggested that the popular out of Africa hypothesis was an inaccurate retelling of African history, which becomes evident when you look at how the population started to spread around in Africa next to the human spread and the related dates as it ties to events in Europe and Asia. We looked at the nomadic lifestyles that developed in North Africa and how that had played a significant role in shaping the various types of deification that were being introduced into the people's daily rituals. And finally, we looked at beyond desiccation, when severe drying in the Sahara region ended the nomadic practices that had been developed, with a return to settled living that would be confined within enclosed and secure surroundings. We also begin to see the first signs of big nationalism during this period through the developments taking place in ancient Egypt, for example in the pyramids, and Kush, where you see major gold mining projects and exports. So before we get into our next section, where we will be looking at the first contacts made between Africans and non-Africans, for those of you who have a Christian sympathies or that kind of religious outlook, I'd just like to point out what might be described as parallels in our African Mestory so far, in line with the allegories and stories written in the Bible. So to begin with, we had the Genesis creation story relating to a time when the earth is still being prepared in readiness for the arrival of the humans, Adam and Eve. Interestingly, Dr. George James makes the following statement in relation to this in his 1954 book, Stolen Legacy. We also discussed how the earliest Africans were effectively multiple Adams and Eves remaining within the boundaries of their settled Garden of Eden societies for over 300,000 years. New forms of deification that came with the nomadic lifestyles that developed around 10,000 BCE and their related seasonal migratory practices, specifically in relation to the Apis bull, can easily be linked to the phrasing that appears in several books of the Bible's Old Testament. This verse from Numbers 14 verse 8 would stand as a good representation of the nomads' kind of expression of faith and dedication to their God figure, as it relates to the Hebrews in the Bible story as they migrated out of Egypt into the land of Canaan as part of the Great Exodus event. The period of desiccation between the 5th and the 2nd millennium BCE would force the African nomads to return to a more settled way of life, following the way of the brave and proud lion deity as is portrayed by the construction of the Sphinx, which was built around the 8th millennium BCE at the height of nomadic activity in the Sahara region. The lion deity and its connected settled culture was positioned to directly contradict the nomads' culture and their Apis deity. This would be a battle in which the lion would eventually prevail, with the nomadic lifestyle in the Sahara being totally abandoned by the 2nd millennium BCE. There are several interesting references to a Lion of Judah in the Bible, which would align quite neatly with events in the North African Sahara region at this time. And here are two examples, one from the book of Genesis and the second from the book of Revelation. The clear symbolism that can be attached to these two aspects of the Bible stories are as can be seen here. The first is the migratory Exodus episode, which is linked to the bull culture, even including a scene that included the golden calf as the Hebrews embarked on their famous journey out of Egypt to a yet to be defined destination. And secondly, the later development of a settled and enclosed base by the Israelites at the city of David. It's undoubtedly aligned with the settled lion culture that had been originated in ancient Egypt and in Kush thousands of years before. The introduction of civil law systems within enclosed societies brought about the deification in ancient Egypt of the goddess Ma'at. She was the personification of the spirit of justice and clean living. Much of the 10 Commandments and other aspects of Moses' law in the Old Testament can be found within the 42 confirmations, commonly referred to as negative confessions, that are required within the Ma'at system of judgment. Something that can be by no means surprising considering the kind of initiation into the Egyptian education system that this particular prophet of the Bible would have had. Examples such as these give some insight into the kind of reverence and dedication that the Africans of that period that we have been discussing gave to their deities.
I'm a rebel in the morning, rebel in the evening. When you take a stop and look and see Crazy things in this black history, across the ocean and across the seas. Now is the time to be free. No commotion. I'm feeling the pain, I feel their emotion, the love and devotion, just like a root potion, 'cause I'm a rebel.